gotta watch it happen. The 6 and 6, Kyle Lowry with the ring, Kawhi Leonard bringing the chips to the city. I want my chips with the dip, that's all I know. I don't want my chips plain, I want my chips with the dip. So bring them dips. That dynasty's over. We did what we had to do. We did this off of heart. We did this off of love. We willed this into existence. We manifested this. I told you the first time. People like to make memes, make another meme out of this. It's beautiful. Look at my brothers up there celebrating it. It is what it is. You see what my hat says. Not finals, not Eastern Conference, not nice try, or see you next year. Champions. Let's go. Real talk.
Who did I steal from? Price tags on making the world feel some. They don't have enough to satisfy a real one.
Logical Raptors fanatic.
Shoot trying to miss. Like every shot.
Logical Raptors fanatic.
Try to make it so I was gonna act surprised.
Logical Raptors fanatic.
Love the game of basketball. I mean, it's just more question you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about.
Logical Raptors fanatic.
I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
No
Project Truth
has contacted me, and I see all the stuff that you guys see, Yeah, so they keep dreaming. I dream too.
Salute, real ones. Project Truth always. Mike G back here with Logical Raptors fanatic, and we have our part 2 of the Raptors truths and myths. Tampa tank, and going through the actual decision of tanking, the logistics of it, and determining what parameters it takes for Masai to feel that we should tank. And comparing this season, obviously because of the similarities in some ways, but the difference at the end where we're going for the play-in versus in Tampa when we went for the tank. So obviously we're going to get more into that stuff today, but then also at the end we're going to zoom out real big and look at the money picture and some of the real dynamics and issues of Tampa. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I don't want to go into it right now, but strap back, enjoy. This one's going to be a good one. So clearly where we left off things, we were talking about the challenges of Tampa, and then we were actually going through the actual timeline of Tampa, and you can see we got the whole Tampa timeline of games and months here, right? And we can see, and later I'm going to pull up the comparisons to this year, but definitely note obviously the slow start, getting it together, COVID month, continuing to figure it out, and then obviously the tank. So let's run back the main Masai clip where he talks about a lot of different things, but keep in mind, obviously looking at the similarities to this season 2022-2023 and the differences
In a very challenging year, but I respect what these guys do and what our organization has done, because there's no complaining, like it's go out and play. We've played all road games basically, being displaced, and it's a challenge, dog. People have families, people have many things they have to think about, in situations like this, and how does that factor into us? Well, you see it. You saw our start, you saw the middle, and you saw where we are now, and how do you judge a team from that? I saw a couple of weeks where we said we were, like, oh, the Raptors are back, like they're back to competing and being, and then all of a sudden, like you see the air gets taken away from you. You don't have 3 or 4 of your guys, and it's difficult, so very, 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 very challenging, honestly. But our jobs is to come and keep keep working, players keep playing, coaches keep coaching, and try to win on and off the court. This is why we're put in this position, and to be honest, we're blessed to be in the NBA.
At some point, do you think you owed this group a chance to play the rest of the year together, given what it's gone through to this point?
Yes, they fight. They fight together, and you see they like to play together. And yeah, there's been ups and downs. You guys have seen it, and there's been the challenges. But at the end of the day, when you come into that locker room with these guys, and I see Kyle and Fred and OG and Pascal and all of them, really come together, and what they want to do, the experience they have had together of winning. We're lucky, we're blessed that we've been a winning organization, and hopefully we can continue that way in some way or the other, and have a good vision for this ball club to continue that. And there might be stops along the way and adversity along the way, but I think the overall culture, we need to keep going, and these players are a big and huge part of it.
So obviously there, Masai talked on a lot of the issues in Tampa, but at the end he conveyed a certain message, which is always should be the message. We're building towards something else, and that's the culture, the winning culture, this thought of eventually that all this leads to somewhere. And that's that winning culture that has to be sewn into your players over time. It's not just like if you start switching out parts, you start losing that culture. So there is this kind of balance of how much you take away from the team versus how much you keep, and trying to continue that good culture that produces results like we've seen in the next year after Tampa, where we actually kind of made the playoffs, the 5th seed. We did really well. We kind of surprised a lot of people and stuff. But then the next year, obviously, growth isn't linear, like Lex likes to say. You know what I mean? It's up and down sometimes. It's not fully, you just go up, 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 up. But there is a process, and there were some challenges this year. We faced certain challenges, not the same as Tampa's challenges. So we're going to look at the roster comments in this clip, but we're also going to take in all the other stuff and try to like fast forward through the Tampa tank part and get to the comparing part, right? So I want to add a lot of context into, there's also some being the Canadian team things that I want to kind of touch on later too in the money part and stuff. So this clip kind of goes to the whole video, but key in on where he starts talking about the roster and misfits, and I'm gonna get into it a little bit more after that, right?
We have been incredibly disadvantaged from all of this. The displacement has really did not work well against us. But I give from the top ownership, everybody from our coaching staff, players, they were incredible during this process. They tried to persevere as much as they could through adversity. Our medical team, they were incredible for us. The front office, even scout, everything, we tried to come together. In this environment, which is the NBA, we were number 30 in terms of what we went through. We had an outbreak on our team. We had a rough start. That's on us. That's on me. Maybe because of our roster and some maybe we can call misfits as we started this season. But we did climb up to being 4th in the East, I think sometime in mid-February or end of February or something.
So that clip was really long, so I had to cut out the first part. He went really over the COVID and the testing restrictions and the restrictions around practice and the ballroom, like workout room, right, stuff. So I want to kind of cut down less. We've heard about the COVID stuff. Let's get into the meat and the potatoes of the season and more of the on-court and the player stuff, right? We understand those sort of parts, and we're going to talk about the big picture at the end, but let's continue forward to where he said, this season is on me, and at the start, we had misfits. So, like, obviously, Masai knew, like, losing Ibaka and Gasol were not only their playing, but their mentorship. Like, we talk about mentorship so much on this channel, and I think understanding losing those type of two mentors, that was a bigger loss than even probably their on-court stuff with bringing in Aaron Baines, Alex Lynn. And I think those were the misfits he was kind of talking about. They didn't really fit our style of like gym rats in the gym working hard, trying to practice every day. They're kind of guys that like to cut off from the team and do their own thing and stuff. And we want guys like that are in the mix that really want to compete and build chemistry to actually win games and stuff. And if two of your most important guys aren't in the mix because of their own choice and not even because of health or whatever, right? That makes it a huge issue in the factor of chemistry, team chemistry and bonding. Like, we saw this was actually the month and period when Siakam had his little episode with Nick. But I've always felt it was about Alex Lynn and the way he was playing defense, and he wanted Nick to tell him to do something because obviously he wasn't listening to Siakam, and Siakam got frustrated and kind of left the court after because he didn't want to blow up on a teammate in front of the cameras and stuff. But he can't do that. He needs to control his emotions. He is our main guy or max player. He needs to be out there. He can't be leaving games early and stuff. So, hey, everyone's, no matter who you are on this team, you're subject to part of the team and responsible to the team and accountable to the team. So Siakam sat a game. I think we won that one. It was like, maybe it was here, the 6th and the 8th, but then we lost the game after or whatever. But obviously Masai kind of brought in Birch, brought in Gillespie, and they're a little bit more playable than Baines and Lynn. So we can see here how this first part of the season here, this is Tampa on the top, and this is current season at the bottom, right? So we can see what happened here, and then we kind of figure it out, like Masai said there, mid-February, end of February, right? And that's kind of where we left off with Masai's synopsis. But then let's look down here. So obviously October, November, we look fairly decent. But the hiccup is in November, we lost Spicy for a whole month. And we had to kind of push guys up into roles. And you're going to hear what Masai does when that happens. Like, it's really interesting, the process between him and Nick Nurse. And he talks about evaluating talent and stuff like that. And the aims of what's happening when you can't actually build on when everyone's there and the team chemistry's full. You're going to understand what he's talking about with individual play and kind of what he was talking about, the selfishness in here. But then obviously we got exacerbated. The minutes were up on everyone and the injuries started to pile up, and we felt it in December, right? And this is kind of the bad month. And take into account, obviously the season started earlier and this one's more condensed. But before the big COVID dip month, check the timeline. Like, we're in the 3rd month right here, right? And the big dip is in the 4th month, right? We had our big dip in the 3rd month of this year. So why would we not think we can pull it out of the pan if we thought we could pull it out of the pan in Tampa, kinda? Like, to choose to tank off December is idiotic because there's so much more of the season left. You have to see how things play out regarding into this next half, right? Before you make a decision to tank or something like that. So let's continue on and hear Masai's next evaluation of the next part of the season.
That's on that's on us. That's on me. Maybe because of our roster and some maybe we can call misfits as we started this season. But we did climb up to being fourth in the East. I think sometime in mid-February or end of February or something. And we climbed back out of that, and then we got hit again. We had a 1 in 13 month, and that was tough. Doug, to be honest, that really, we were playing teams that I know that, games that were winnable games and we could win. But these guys, they were walking in mud. They were running in mud and their bodies and everything that they were going through, it was really, really tough. So it's been difficult to evaluate, but one of the things I think we're able to do, especially with Coach Nurse, is see the different things that we could work with on our team, evaluate players maybe even individually, and then style of play and some of the things we want to do. You saw us doing different things at different times. Our young guys, how did we get them to grow as much as we could? It's a tough year to evaluate because I would say we put ourselves in all kinds of positions in this league with what you deal with in sports to make the best decisions and to evaluate as well as you can. This was a tough situation because none of us have gone through this before. And our case was even worse than the 29 other teams. We're not looking for excuses here. We know the work that we have to do going forward and how we need to get back on our feet. It's a great challenge for us going forward. But to your question, it has been very difficult to evaluate. What was that 1 in 13 months? I can't. I wish I could tell you exactly, what that was after we had climbed to fourth in the East. Well, we had an outbreak. And then after that, how do you evaluate your team? We saw some good things when we got a couple more bigs and how the young guys started kind of gelling together a little bit. We're excited about that and building from that.
Said a lot of different things there. We're going to dissect it a little bit, but there was an interesting thought he was saying there. So he was saying they were running through mud. So, that's the term of, playing through exhaustion and not having proper bodies in the system and overplaying guys. They start to run in mud from the cumulative, running over and over again in the mud, and you start to pick up the mud and it's harder to run, right? So, he does understand certain evaluations, and we should too. So, when he says what was that 1 in 13 month, how do I evaluate that? And obviously he said a lot of interesting things. He said at those times we see a lot of the young guys, try a lot of different new things, see what works, see what doesn't. We go into test mode when things kind of aren't up to where we can run them. So we are kind of developing through maybe losing. We know where we might take a loss because half our rotation's out, but we're going to still work on things for the next game and the next game. We're always working for the next game. And maybe it's the next game 3 years down the line when some of this stuff comes up. But it's all in part of building a strong foundation over time. So Masai sees certain opportunity, and Nick does too, because obviously he clarified that Nick does these kind of things where he's able to evaluate different things and maybe look at individual skills more when players are out than team chemistry and how that looks, because obviously our system needs bodies that have played enough time together that can understand and read and react off each other and have enough experience with each other where it doesn't become like a turnover fest or bad shot creation and stuff like that. We need guys to be in there that know the role and know the system and stuff. So clearly he talked about a lot of different things there, but he definitely precipiced the fact that we're trying to get the younger guys to how much did they develop like in this time. So that's what the next man up thing's about. How much did they develop? But then he understands you can't run them at that new speed for the whole season without them start to pick up mud and slow down. So we could see kind of our slowdown month of this year in 2022-2023 was the third month of the season, and we could see the Tampa tank, it's March. So like we can't really evaluate like the team progression at that time when we don't have bodies yet. Bodies are key to the system that we run. And I think the similarity in the seasons were that we lost a whole swath of people at one time that created issues longer on, lingering issues throughout the season. We get back up to kind of weight, then we fall back down. But this season was a little bit different. The Tampa obviously was like that, but this season was a little bit different, where we had kind of like that really bad month, and then we kind of climbed out of it a bit once we started to get more bodies back. Precious was finally back in January, right? We were talking about Precious being a big part of things. But then even then, he wasn't really stable enough. He came in, had it effect in a couple games. The league adjusted, you know how that is. And Masai saw, okay, finally, we need more. There's more that has to happen here with this team if we want them to push forward into the next phase of this team progression and where we see this team in the next 5-10 years, because he's always talking about the 5-year 10-year plan, right? So what's the next lift? Remember Masai talking about the lifts, like Drake came in and lifted us. We had the All-Star game here, it lifted us. Building the OVO center where we could have players feel like they have a home was lifting us up. Getting the G League lifted us up. Getting Kawhi lifted us up. Getting Gasol lifted us up. What's the next lift? And he obviously saw that the next lift wasn't tanking and getting a high draft pick that's going to take a number of years and losing attached with those years to grow through his kind of skills, what we're doing with Scotty. You could see there's kind of things at times that don't fully come through with Scotty, but then at sometimes really great stuff. So it's like we're evaluating still. We know he's young, but he's such a great prospect and knows the kind of like angles within like plays and knows how to like dissect certain things. So like he can be efficient there and not make too many mistakes based on role and responsibility and gauging that up properly as he gets more experience in the league. But we are looking at those times when people are out to push guys up. So we saw like a lot of different things, right? But we also saw Fred VanVleet trying to hold the ship. We need playoffs, and that's the part that these young guys really need. Like, yes, playing time in the season and like losing games with them and getting that type of growth is a lot different than getting Scotty into a couple playoff games and start really expanding his game out from the playoff experience he has, because that's the biggest tester. That's where you can really test your game, because all weaknesses are attacked, all strengths are magnified. The game's more magnified because it slows down and it's a really grind 'em style where you have to use at all advantages and limit your disadvantages. And where do you find your disadvantages the most? In the playoffs, where the best players kind of pick at them and teams get 7 games to pick at you, pretty much. You know what I mean? So playoff experience is so key to really figuring out what the weaknesses are and shoring them up over time. It's not just like this losing the season and that's how we figure it out, because half the teams aren't attacking those weaknesses. They're going to attack easy weaknesses during the season, and then the playoffs, when those easy weaknesses aren't there, they're going to have to attack harder ones, and we get that second level of weaknesses found out. So it's a process. All of this is a process. We're still fairly young, but the younger guys, as far as we can push them with Pascal, Pirtle, and Fred VanVleet, that's the thing. If we could push OG higher, if we could push Barnes up higher, if we could push Precious up higher, if we could push up Gary Trent higher, like these are the guys that will fill in and make it a full team, or at least be able to support a guy that maybe we make a trade for. Masai could always pivot and make a trade if he doesn't see the gold at the end of the rainbow and things starting to close up. But I believe that they have a year or two to figure things out and see where that goes, and he might reevaluate then, but we'll see. But let's continue on. And obviously we can see that April and February kind of coincide with like kind of a fixing of things a bit, but obviously we were way out of it still, even after the good April, and that was the month that I think Malachi Flynn won rookie. So he was playing games here in this. Interesting enough, yeah, the last game was a loss to Indy, where Malachi Flynn actually played probably the most minutes he's played in a while and showed some stuff, and maybe he is developing behind the scenes. We have to, I don't know, it's so hard to judge him because we see so little of him, but maybe possibly he's better than we all think. I don't know. But either way, obviously we talked about his salary and stuff, but neither here nor there. But let's continue through here. So obviously we got Pirtle, and then the league didn't know how to play us at first, and we were crushing. Then the league kind of adjusted a bit. We're still kind of trotting along here. And then I think, yeah, Scotty went out this game and then has been out this game with the wrist thing. So, like, again, with the rotation stuff, in and out, we need to build the team chemistry. That was the whole, like, thing of this year, and we haven't really been able to do that. But we have built individual skills and looked at a lot of future stuff that we could be working on from some of the different scramble plays and the scramble lineups. Maybe we see something interesting in that kind of pile of stuff here. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So let's continue on and let's hear what Masai thinks is really important during these tough times from like leadership and stuff on the team.
So I was wondering if there were any moments, obviously there's been a ton of adversity for you guys this year, but any moments that you really feel like Kyle was the one to shepherd you guys through them?
He's always the one that shepherds us through, you know, like through these moments. To be honest, he's just been a strength and a backbone for this team. You know, you see we have a lot of young players, you know, and his leadership, along with Fred, along with the other guys, you know, they wheel us through, you know, and there have been tough times when we could have given up, collapsed. There have been times when it's not been very pleasant, to be honest. You know, having guys locked in protocol and not being around, and uncertainty, times even when they should have been relaxing, you know, during All-Star, you know, like guys were stuck in rooms, you know, like this is not pleasant at all, you know, and it's a hard time for them to go through, but I know everybody is dealing with it around the world and around the league. But we're just talking about our situation and how we deal with it. And he's been a strength for us. And it's not only like with the players, with the staff, with the organization in general. And we appreciate that.
So obviously we heard from Masai and some really powerful words there at the end and all throughout there about leadership and how Kyle kind of was the backbone of things and he willed us through things. And then obviously now Fred, he's mentioned Fred in there, but we got to think of it in the same role per se right now, where he's the guy that has to kind of will us through things, and sometimes he's not going to be able to get it done like Lowry was, and he took the brunt and a lot of things, and DeMar did too, and it's tough sometimes when just the team can't get it done, but ultimately it is about the leadership kind of keeping everyone together, keeping everyone focused, and eventually getting the team regrouped and moving forward, right? It's about coming out of this kind of 1 of 13 thing and making an effort and seeing good things pop up when we kind of get guys back and stuff. So obviously February was a way better month. Injecting Pirtle into the lineup obviously injected some more leadership that was missing kind of, and we brought Thad to kind of fill in that role where Pirtle is now, where he can kind of be the checker of the other two guys and checker of the whole team in a sense of like accountability, and his words matter because he was here and he understands what he's talking about, and it just makes so much sense on so many factors based on just like even the staff. Like the staff loved Pirtle. They worked with him before. Like Jimmy was working with Siakam and Pirtle, and seeing Pirtle back energizes the whole entire staff. And like Masai was saying there with Lowry, energizing the staff daily and keeping them motivated. It's like this energy that is really contagious of seeing a guy really trying hard at all times and it's contagious, that effort, right? So we get that effort going, and that's how we get big things done in the NBA and make big strides with development and do a lot of different things, right? So obviously March is not done yet. It's funny how like, yeah, this is done and this is way done, right? But we still have like 9 more games and there's barely a month left in the season. We got a game Friday against Dwayne Casey and the Pistons, and that'll be interesting. But we also need to keep in mind there were years with Dwayne Casey before Masai coming here, and they weren't pretty like the whole time. Like, yes, now that we kind of forget that part because it's been a while, but Casey had some bad years with us initially before Masai kind of fixed things up because Colangelo hired Casey. So let's get into maybe some of Masai's building theories in this earlier stage and kind of get a finger on some of the stuff that he thinks about with building now versus for later, and you know what I mean, right?
Of course, but is there and this is going to kind of put you on the spot, is there a better fit right now for your team in the free agent market than Kyle Lowry?
It just depends on what we're doing, right? When we evaluate this, we're evaluating in many ways. You know, one of the ways where we've looked at is giving the young guys, you know, even more opportunity and, you know, building the future rather than now. Yeah, we have to look at the organization that way. If you remember, I spoke like that a lot when I took the job here. We have to build. I know we won a championship, and last year we were considered a team that was close and a contender. But we're at a place too where we have to look at the young players we have and maybe lift them up a little bit. And that's kind of one of the options we will continue to examine as we look at the team. So I understand your question when you say, is there a better player out there? It's hard to find a better player than Kyle. Now, even in this environment, he's been incredible to us, and his value is even more to us than an outside free agent in more ways. But when we look at it the other way, you can look at how do you start to build again, like to get to the level that we got to?
So obviously Masai's keeping an eye on now and building now with the Siakam players, but he's also keeping an eye on the future, right? With Scotty and the other guys, and how this all works together is how we really get to that next level. Exactly what he's saying there. So we have to keep certain objectives in mind when we're evaluating different performances and fits, and there's a lot of different things that go into it. So I think it's even premature right now to judge this season entirely, but we can see, hopefully see, because the Indiana game was kind of strange, but I do believe they are still attempting to get to that eighth seed in order to play, like, get two chances at playoffs in order to get Scotty more playoff games, right? Because Nick was mentioning that Scotty did only get a couple games based on the rolled ankle in the first game, where he almost got a triple-double in his very first playoff game and didn't really come back till game 4, right? So we could definitely get more experience under Scotty's belt this year. And the standings are skewed in a way where even if we're in the play in a bit and maybe we lose that, we still get a higher pick that's closer to 10 than it is 15 based on the West and their wins. Well, we'll see how everything evens out. I don't know how things will end up, like, in that sense, but I think it's good to keep in mind that
I know you just spoke about the draft, but I wanted to know if you could share a little bit about the philosophy of you of your team on evaluating the potential of a guy, what a player could turn out to be. And in particular, this year, you look at Chris Boucher and you look at Paul Watson Jr. and you look at even an Alize Johnson, floated around other organizations, and then they get to Toronto and things just go much different, better for them. How do you guys evaluate that?
Hi, Amy. If I told you that, I'd be giving away like all our secrets. I don't know if I can tell you that one. I'll tell you this: we're still trying to figure it out. We're really still trying to figure out like what we can, how we can get better with this. Projecting is the hardest thing in this sport. I think if it was something that was set, everybody would be. We would have all these incredible players, right? It's such a difficult thing to do. I give our guys a lot of credit because they grind and find and yeah, we're going to win some and we're going to lose some, but at the end of the day, I'm proud of what our guys are. We have to be an organization that has to build that way in some kind of way, and that's what we're talking about when we say Pascal, OG, Fred are homegrown, and we have to raise them and not cry about free agent doesn't want to come here, or we don't want to do this, or we can't run and hide under the table. We have to build our own. So we've taken pride in the draft, but there are many things we have to do to get better too, and things that we're trying to think about to be visionaries in this league, to see further ahead in this league. Some of these things, every team has their little secrets here and there, and we'll continue to have ours.
So obviously you heard an interesting thing there from Masai, and talking about how it's hard to actually project talent in the NBA, where everyone would be good and everyone would be great NBA players in a sense, right? So this thing is not easy, and it's based sometimes on ups and downs and trying to figure things out. Every player is so unique, and how do you project a unique individual from a character standpoint, from a skill standpoint, from motivation standpoint, from work ethic standpoint? There's so much that encompasses what an NBA player is. And scouting all these different things, sometimes it's not an exact science on things. So you have to keep faith in some of the decisions that were made and roll with the punches sometimes. And continue to just keep focusing on forward growth. Like he's talking about how our homegrown guys, we've raised them up. We've taught them all our stuff in a sense, and that's how we have to do that with the younger guys now, with Precious, Scotty, Coloco, Gary Trent. OG's kind of in the middle of things, right? So it's really interesting how he kind of thinks of things, and he understands there's hard times in a lot of rebuilding and trying to figure out the correct fit, and you sometimes make bad decisions, and they need to keep their secrets in order to make the best decisions before other people can take those decisions from them, right? So it is me speculating to a certain extent on this channel about different things and motives and intentions, but I believe from what he's saying, and most of the time you can kind of connect the dots without knowing exactly how certain things work with, and see the whole picture still properly, because certain aspects are kind of insulated and you don't have to actually kind of see a process to know that something goes into this process and they're either signed or whatever and something comes out on the other end, right? So it's like you have to understand how this whole big machine works, and the money side is a really big important part, and honestly it is one of the biggest decisions that we chose to tank in Tampa. And understanding this point and revenue and what playing for what actually meant is actually down to money, and what he was talking about, what he wants from the front office for them to do. And I'm going to show you exactly what he wants them to do, and we're going to go through that part so we understand the context of what he was saying in that kind of whole phrase there. But before that, let's get into some of the other stuff like luxury tax and see what he thinks about that, because he made a great kind of insert.
You touched a little bit earlier that your contract situation isn't going to come down to money necessarily. When you look around the league, what are the things that you're hoping for in terms of commitment to success? Is it paying into the luxury tax and things like that, or is it like facilities and structures? What are those things that you're hoping to get?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I think our ownership is strong with I remember coming in here, and when I took the job here, they told me if I wanted to go into luxury tax at any point in time, they would do it. We have to do our jobs to figure out when the right places and time is to do all those things. I don't want to put out all the things that we want to do here and how we want to do them, because I think it'll be putting our business out there. But yeah, there are many things that we want to do to get ourselves even further ahead, to think different. Luxury tax is not one of them, to be honest. You know, like our ownership has been pretty clear with us that whenever we put ourselves in a position to win and get players, they'll do those things, I think, to give us that chance.
Sorry about the bong noises, but this is what it's about at the end of the day. The team is like a business, and it needs to be run like a business or whatever, right? So I got our revenue in US dollars, so that's part of the transaction of Canadian to American and whatnot and stuff. And I don't think I'll be able to get to what Masai feels on Canada fully. Obviously, you heard a lot about being disadvantages as the 30th team, quote unquote. But let's get into the numbers a bit. So this graph actually starts at 2001, 2002, and they made about 87 million in revenue, right? So we could see how that goes through the years. I'll point out certain years, right? So obviously we went to the playoffs a bit over here, so we got a bump up in notoriety. You could see how that works, right? When you get playoffs, but then we started to wean down back, and then we got Masai, right? Well, we got like in this time frame, right? And then Masai's first year, second year, third year, and you see the value of that year the next year, kind of see. You could see like, well, this one is 15-16, right? And this, we had that great run, and now we become a more valuable team in 16-17, but also the TV contracts, right, that year, and the salary exploded. So that's part of it too, right? But we could see ultimately our highest earnings ever were in the championship year, right? So like, and then that kind of sucks because we didn't get the full bump up. Like, you could see how we could scale up again based on the metrics of each year and looking at the years, right? So this is the revenue, the money that the team makes, and you can see we took a hit. So we weren't actually able to get a lot from the bubble run it back season. We kind of got like base amount kind of, but the playoffs would have boosted that amount, and going deep in the playoffs at home and all that, the things that didn't tie to this revenue, because it's all the sponsorship deals, the tickets, all the merchandising stuff, and when the Raptors are winning, people are buying stuff, a lot of stuff, and they're making a lot of money off that also, right? So like there's a tandem in between winning and making money. And what Masai's ask truly was not to be content in just getting a bit of a bump here, right? He wants to get up here and continue getting up there and up there. And I don't know if it's going to go crazy like that, but you could see the kind of metrics involved here, right? And each season's its own dynamic. We could see this is where the reason to tank kind of happened, right? This is Tampa season. You could see we definitely didn't make a lot of money from Tampa, and we were operating at a heavy lossage from having to rent a whole ballroom in a hotel and all these extra different facilities and renting equipment to do this and that, and not having all our own stuff that we've kind of paid for, and where we can kind of get more return value from using our own stuff that we've invested in and done all this stuff. So operating in a dislocated kind of fashion, like Masai was saying earlier, presented numerous like difficulties, but also created a kind of like drain on the money. So what I think is, when he was saying this kind of mocking of like, and asking a question, why didn't you get in the play-in? And then he's like, play-in for what? I think the league kind of asked him like, hey, if you're hurting so bad, why don't you just try to get in the play-in and get some more money? And he's like, what? And then that's probably when he went off a little bit. And I don't know, that's my speculation, but it's kind of interesting that this whole like thing is all tied together. So Tampa was really a crazy season that like really sparked a lot of different things, and we could see the complete difference back at home in the playoffs. At least the first round, we're making like almost 300 million in US salary. And what Masai's ask ultimately was, at the end of the day, if we want to boil it down to everything, right? He wants this money to be reinvested into the G League, building facilities, doing all these kind of first class things, like keeping high level development coaches and stuff. Like, yeah, we're making money, but we should invest a certain amount of it so we can hit this level again, hit the championship and get that money, that bread, you know what I mean, that big bread, right? Like, see, we're 11th ranked in value this year, right? From Forbes, of course, right? So we could see the Warriors are 7 billion, the Knicks, because the whole MSG corporation and the way they have the TV set up, he makes a lot of money off that. Plus, he owns the arena, and owning the arena and not renting arena was a big hit on us too. Like, we were renting someone else's arena to play basketball games when we have a perfectly good arena back in Toronto, but it was based on border restrictions and all that kind of stuff. So obviously we could see that we're even worth more than the Miami Heat. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, check that. Hey, we're a pusher in the world, and we do spend a lot of this money back into the development, and that has been the determining factor of getting to this point and actually developing these players out properly and having the coaches and all this kind of stuff that goes behind the scenes with getting advanced, like drafting, scouting, paying for a massive scoutings, and like all this stuff is about investing back into the team. And that's what his wants were. He doesn't want the owners to be content with just winning a round or two. He wants them to really want the championship payday right there, right? And that's the kind of spark of that whole paragraph and stuff. But let's keep it, because money, it's so cold when we start talking about everything in such exact fashions with money and stuff. Let's hear how Masai actually feels about these guys, living, breathing, real people that have families, and he understands these choices are not hard. So trading away a guy isn't as easy as it seems on the internet, right? When you write it in, you actually have to go to the guy, break it to his family, look at his wife in her face and stuff, and like that stuff, wow. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be involved in any part of that situation and the kind of strong feelings that occur at that point. So I would like to see things work out as is for the most part, and don't want to see these kind of like breakups. But if we understand we identify certain problems and certain switches have to be made, then yes, Masai is willing to talk about it and has talked about being able to be flexible, adaptable, and changing on the fly. But is it the right thing? Sometimes we kind of maybe regret the changes that we made and some things like that. So you have to be really methodical with kind of projecting talent, and he said that was really difficult. So I think ultimately, when we're evaluating even this season, this one we're currently in 2022, 2023, let's look at the things that he looks at when the schedule was really tough and the so-called selfish ball was happening. But I think it's just individual play. Like, team chemistry is low, so there's going to be a lot of ISO and using a lot of individual skills and matchup driven and a lot of different stuff when you're not able to run full plays because like 4 of the 5 guys running the play is out. Like, it's crazy, right? So obviously, let's leave it off on a good note and let's hear Masai talk about the team and the guys and how he feels about that kind of stuff.
I don't know how close you follow these things, but the people in your organization all were saying really important things about you the last few days. I think Nick Nurse was talking about the teamwork, the partnership he developed with you, and Fred said you were the number 2 most important Raptor behind Kyle, and Kyle obviously said some very kind words the other day also about the culture and how you've helped him grow and everything that's been done here. Said you're the top executive in the game. So when you hear the people you work with and go to battle with now for years talk to you about that, how do you react? What do you think of what you built?
It's hard for me because these guys are incredible for me,
To hear them say that, yeah, I honestly sometimes don't know what to say. Our players, the coaches, the staff, they're incredible for me. I go to battle every day with those guys, every single day. I love them like they're my family.
Thank you.
Best place to leave it off. Housekeeping. Just want to start out by saluting the real ones and thanking them for the comments, the likes, the support, the feedback, you know, the subs, everything like that. Really, really glad we could do a 100 sub special, and definitely have to continue shouting out Raptors Freak Nation and Raptors Freak Lex. Well, Raptors Freak, sorry, Lex at 9:30 a.m. Eastern every day, cutting up and talking about the Raptors, but keeping it positive. You won't come out feeling like the end of the world just happened, right? Like, you're gonna feel positive. You're gonna, even if it's a tough loss, you're gonna feel the community's feel of the loss and kind of feel better about it. Like, there's other people shouldering the weight of this too with you, and we're all in it together as real ones. And Raptors Freak Lex is definitely a place to meet up with the real ones and stuff. And Grubstown Clink has some great stuff there too. Also a really good channel for real ones. And we'll get on to our Nick Nurse picture here, right? So it's actually getting really close to the anniversary of hiring Masai, and then 1 month later hiring Nick Nurse, right? And it's funny, Eric Green is writing about Raptors hire D-League's Nick Nurse to coaching staff, still courting former Pacer Tyler Hansborough, and college great, but didn't really pan out too well in the NBA. But that was July 9th, 2013. So now it's 2023. So you could see it's almost coming to 10 years that Nick's been on the coaching staff as an assistant and a coach. But also the anniversary of Masai's starting as GM, then becoming president, then becoming vice chairman, and his kind of climb in the Raptors sphere in the last 10 years started very soon. So those anniversaries are really coming up. I really want to do something great and positive and check back on some older stuff mixed with some new stuff. Got some great plans for that, and I hope everyone just sticks around for that kind of stuff. Always keeping an eye on the salary kind of stuff. I know Will Barton's kind of not really been hitting at all, it seems like, but I've seen some chemistry with Scotty sometimes, but we'll see how that pans out. But spending $500,000 to see if it could work, low risk, high reward play, right? That's the kind of stuff that we need Masai to be doing, and we could tell that he's great at what he does. And from this whole kind of two-parter and the Tampa tank, we can understand what makes him tick regarding the tanking and the differences in this season and the one in Tampa. So just want to keep the positivity. Let's try to get that playoff experience for our young guys and try to grow the future and grow now at the same time by getting into the playoffs and testing out different things. And I just want to end off with saluting the real ones. Project Truth always, Logical Raptors, Fanatic out, Mike G, Mike G.
Oh man, I love my team, man, I love my team. I would die for them.
Not just cause I want to, cause I got to. Put the scar on your back, did the impossible. It's only logical, it's fitted from the heart.